After a marathon debate for over 8 hours, the Women's Reservation Bill has cleared the Lok Sabha. A whopping 454 members of Parliament backed the bill, with just 2 MPs, both from the AIMIM, opposed to the bill. The bill was hailed by Home Minister Amit Shah as an essential push for women's empowerment, but the Congress party's charge, led by Sonia Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi, called for the immediate implementation of the bill as well as the inclusion of an OBC sub-quota within the larger quota for women. The BJP has said that a delimitation exercise and a census is a basic constitutional protocol for the passage of the bill. The bill will now head to the Rajya Sabha, the upper house, where it's likely to sail through as well. And then, of course, the president gives her assent and it becomes law.
कुछ पार्टियों के लिए महिला सशक्तिकरण एक राजनीतिक मुद्दा हो सकता है, परंतु मेरी पार्टी और मेरे नेता नरेंद्र मोदी जी के लिए महिला सशक्तिकरण राजनीतिक मुद्दा नहीं है।
भारतीय राष्ट्रीय कांग्रेस की मांग कि यह बिल फौरन अमल में लाया जाए।
I stand in support of the Women's Reservation Bill. There is one thing, in my view, that makes this bill incomplete. I would like to have seen OBC reservation included in this bill.
बोलना भी चाहता हूं सर, बैठिए, सप्लीमेंट्री में
All right, joining us now is K. Kavita, BRS MLC, and also a woman politician who's been in politics for a very long time. Thank you very much, ma'am. First things first, you must have seen these historic scenes. The Lok Sabha has passed this Women's Reservation Bill. 33% of seats in the Lok Sabha and the state legislatures will be reserved for women. As a woman politician who's been around for a number of years now, fighting the system, fighting the odds that are stacked up against women, the passage of the bill today, what does such a moment mean for you and for all women politicians?
Well, it's long pending to begin with, but yes, very happy, very elated to see the process underway, and I hope by the time we end the interview, the bill will be passed as well. So there were apprehensions when the bill was introduced that what will happen, what will be in the bill, etc. It's a tad disappointing that the 33% OBC quota is not involved, but we will work for it, we will continue to work for it. And second factor is that if the government is saying we will pass the bill now but we will only implement it later, that is something that women are a little disappointed with, because we can do it right away. There is a possibility, there is a precedent that this government has done in multiple, at umpteen number of occasions they have utilized 2011 census as the bill. So it can still be implemented, but do not know why government has taken a decision of not implementing the reservation right away, starting with these 5 state elections. That is definitely disappointing. Congress party who could not put in the OBC reservation, because of the coalition government, when this government took up the bill, the only hope was that OBC quota bhi karke, they can pass the bill because of the complete and the brutal majority that this government has.
I do want to ask you what you just mentioned about the demand from the Congress, some other opposition parties as well, for OBC quota. Now, OBC quota within the larger framework of the Women's Reservation. We have seen in other instances the Supreme Court frown upon this whole idea of a quota within a quota. So, what would be the justification for that? And also the Congress, the bill that they brought and passed in the Rajya Sabha, what were unable to pass in the Lok Sabha more than 10 years ago in 2010, that did not have an OBC quota. That was just women's reservation. There was no quota within a quota.
Rahul Gandhi ji went on elaborately talking about how OBCs have been neglected in even bureaucracy, etc. But whose government was ruling this nation for the longest of time? It was Congress government. And if you could not do it then, why question this government? And if you were sincere in 2010, women would have gotten their due share. In fact, why I say this, I don't say this because of a political grudge, but it is a painful factor that the Congress party ignored to even mention Women's Reservation Bill in 2019, their national manifesto. So they forgot about Women's Reservation Bill in last 16 years, and now they are trying to express their sympathy towards OBC because of this election mahol. That being said, this government is again losing an opportunity which can give justice to the major section of population of this nation, and that population is not going to be very happy. And implementation of this bill, if they can do it now but yet deliberately are not doing it, women also will not resonate well to the government's decision.
Okay.
This we can clearly see on the ground, because since yesterday, a day before, women excited or all meeting all of us from every village, every place, all of them are saying the same thing. So with this elections, are we going to get the opportunity? When we said no, this government is talking about implementing it for the next election. There is disappointment among women of this nation. The government should seriously consider this factor.
So the argument from the BJP, and you heard many speakers in today's debate also talk about this, Article 82, I believe they have cited, saying that any change to the composition of a state legislature or the parliament cannot be done until there is a census exercise and a delimitation exercise. This is the protocol that is essential for any change to the structure or the composition of a state legislature or a parliament. Do you buy that argument, and what is your counter to that argument put forth by the government and the government's ministers and spokespeople who've in fact also participated in the debate today?
Not at all, because they have precedence of doing this using, when we do not have the census available, that was supposed to be made in 2021. COVID hit every nation in this world, so government could not do it in 2021. Why did not the government take up the census in 2022? Why did not they take up the census in the beginning of 2023? It is their own government's fault that now is hurting the Women's Reservation Bill. So because it is their own government's faults, they should correct it by implementing it now, and technically it is possible. Earlier you had also mentioned that the courts are giving different opinions about quota within quota.
Yeah.
But courts gave different opinion for every different state, and they gave very conflicting judgments about these reservations as a whole. So ultimately Parliament has an authority over the courts. Parliament can decide, and this Parliament, moreover, with this kind of majority, only BJP itself can pass. They don't even need their NDA partners, one or two partners who they're left with currently. They don't even need them. 303 is the number that BJP has today. They can immediately pass, they can immediately implement it with this election, this 5-state election starting.
Okay.
So ultimately, when you look at all of this, what I understand as a woman, not as a politician, is that Congress party is trying to claim credit that we bought the bill, we introduced this, we introduced that. Bharatiya Janata Party is trying to give you a half-baked bill just to hog that credit, saying that we are the ones who bought the bill, we are the ones who introduced the bill, but yet women are truly not getting their due share.
Okay. All right. K. Kavita, BRS MLC, thank you very much for speaking with us here on CNN News 18. Now, let's move on to what are the legal implications and perhaps even the legal complications, as some would say, as to why, A, this cannot be implemented right away, why there needs to be a census exercise and then subsequently a delimitation exercise before this reservation can be implemented, and also about whether or not this idea of a quota within a quota, which the Supreme Court has frowned upon in the past, will be kosher this time around. PDT Achari is a former Secretary General of the Lok Sabha and somebody who knows the constitutionality of what's been passed today. Thank you very much for speaking with us. The Women's Reservation Bill has been passed in the Lok Sabha, overwhelming majority. The one point of contention that the opposition had been raising, not just the Congress but many other parties also, is to have OBC quota within Women's Reservation, a quota within quota. Would that stand the test of law according to you?
Actually, in this case, you must know that there is no reservation for OBCs in the legislatures, that is Parliament and the assemblies. no reservation has been given so far. So how can reservation be given to the OBC women in this particular case? That may not be possible unless a general reservation for the OBC categories is given just like the scheduled castes and scheduled tribes.
The
So I don't
other,
think it is possible for the government to do this in this particular bill.
the other point of contention, Mr. Achari, has been that, why are you passing this bill now before the 2024 election when you're saying that this can only be implemented after census and delimitation in 2026, and perhaps the first general election that this will be applicable for is the 2029 general election? There is an argument from the centre that they cannot break into the current composition of the Lok Sabha or state legislatures. They're citing Article 82. Again, is that a valid argument?
Well, there is some merit in that argument, because the reservation that is being provided now can be implemented only in maybe 2029 or something. That is because now there is very little time left for the next elections to the Lok Sabha. And during this period, it is not possible to carry out the redelimitation, identification of the constituencies reserved for women and so on. It involves a lot of work. Therefore, it is not possible. Then, once the next Lok Sabha comes into existence, you cannot disturb it for 5 years.
Yeah.
In the middle of the Lok Sabha's tenure, you can't introduce these things and change the composition of the Lok Sabha. Therefore, you have to wait for another 5 years, and only after that, in the meantime. And then secondly, up to 2026, the strength of the assemblies and parliament and Lok Sabha have been fixed, and it cannot be changed till 2026. The Constitution provides that. In fact, it was provided long back through an amendment. Till 2026, you will not raise the strength of the parliament or the assemblies.
Okay.
And only after that, whenever a census is taken on the basis of the census figures, then the redelimitation, etc., will be done, because a massive effort will have to be done.
All right. Mr. Achari, we'll leave it at that. Thank you very much, former Secretary General of the Lok Sabha, walking us through the constitutionality, the legality of the bill that's been passed today, and some of the concerns that have been raised by the opposition parties. But we're getting a piece of breaking news. The Prime Minister has just tweeted on the passage of the Women's Reservation Bill. The Lok Sabha has voted overwhelmingly and passed the Women's Reservation Bill. Remember, this is the first bill passed in the new Parliament building. The Prime Minister has tweeted, and I quote, I thank MPs across party lines who have voted in support of this bill. The Nari, Shakti, Vandan, Adhiniyam is a historic legislation which will further boost women's empowerment and will enable even greater participation of women in our political process. Payal Mehta has more details on this. So it must be particularly pleasing for the BJP and for the Prime Minister that the very first piece of legislation that's been passed in the People's House, in the Lok Sabha, in this new Parliament building, is the Women's Reservation Bill.
Yes, the Women's Reservation Bill, Zaka, is one step away from becoming history and becoming a law of sorts, because tomorrow the bill is going to come into the Rajya Sabha. Having said that, support came in from various political parties, even though there were amendments which were moved, but people withdrew their amendments the moment they realized that this was for a larger cause and nobody wanted to be seen on the wrong side of not supporting women. Having said that, the moment the bill was passed, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, bowed down before the entire Parliament, before all the MPs, thanking them, folding his hands in gratitude. And similarly, Rajnath Singh, Amit Shah, senior members of the government were also seen doing the same thing. So obviously it means a lot in terms of the brand that Modi has been speaking about, that women-led development is something that they've been promoting in a big, big way. And what a big day it is for Arjuna Meghwal. Remember, he was made the law minister just a couple of months ago, and this is his big debut in Lok Sabha as a law minister. And it seems this kind of support really come in as well.